Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Style and City Diaries.
Brought to you by your favourite and fabulous cousins, Prinny Ray.
And Amber Lowe.
Yes!
Woo!
Wow.
That was a wrong lyric.
That
Sorry.
was wrong. But I understand why she got confused because she is super excited. We have a very exciting and special guest in the building.
I feel like this is a long time coming. I don't know why we never thought to do something like this before.
But we're here now. Obviously, you know, we've been with you guys for 3 odd years. You've been on our journeys where we're talking about life, relationships, all the dramas. And we're kind of getting to healthier points.
Yes,
We've grown.
We have come a long way.
A very long way.
And with our mental health as well.
Yes.
But for the first time ever, we actually have a real life professional with us.
Yes.
We've got Dr. Florencia.
Woo!
Hello, guys.
Welcome.
Thank for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So, Dr. Florencia, you are a psychologist,
Yeah.
and a relationship coach.
Yes, I am indeed. Yes.
Which is super exciting.
Sorry?
Which is really exciting.
Sorry?
You must hear so much tea.
I do. I
Yeah.
do on a daily basis. Yeah. But you know, it's part of life, isn't it? Yeah. So and that's what I'm
Yeah.
here for. I'm here to hold people's hand through their experiences. So yeah.
Yes, needed. Start off by telling us about yourself, about your journey and how you got to where you are as a relationship coach.
Sure. So I pretty much started working for the NHS as a psychologist. And what I noticed was I was getting kind of a repeated, I don't know, kind of client, if you like. They were, you know, quite young, millennial. They were from marginalized backgrounds, or they were women of color. And they all came initially with various difficulties and presentations, but what was at the core was relationship difficulties and relationship trauma, attachment difficulties. So over the years, I thought, okay, there's something here. There's something that I can offer. So that's why I started my private practice and specializing in attachment, trauma, and relationship difficulties. So yeah.
I feel like I just want you in my pocket already.
No,
I'm not gonna fit in your pocket, girl. Trust me.
Oh my God. I feel when you were just saying that, I felt so triggered because the first time I ever got in touch with a therapist to seek help was because of a relationship issue. I couldn't breathe. I needed to talk to somebody. And it's true, like we don't realize a lot of the things that affect us and issues really do stem from like relationships. Sometimes not even just romantic, even like relationships with like family members and attachment and all of that. So
Yeah,
you're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah. I mean, it's needed, and you know what I've come to find is that. Well, actually, let me start here. I went through quite difficult relationships myself. You know, quite traumatic relationships. So when I was going through that, I felt like it's probably something to do with me. There's something innately wrong with me, perhaps. So, I wasn't quite sure how to deal with it. But I was through therapy that allowed me to actually view the situation differently, get to know myself in a deeper way. But also what that pushed me to do was to seek out community. Right, so I don't know if you guys know, but Clubhouse was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved Clubhouse.
Clubhouse was a thing a few years ago, and I jumped on Clubhouse and I jumped into women specific spaces, especially for Black women, and I would just listen to their stories, and these are women from all over the world, right? And they were speaking about their relationship traumas and, you know, attachment, you know, difficulties, but also just the sheer violence sometimes that they've experienced, right, in their life in one way, shape, or form. And I thought, wow, so it's not just me then. There's nothing inherently wrong with me. Like, this is a global phenomena that we need to tackle, right? So the safety of women and empowering women, and teaching women that actually you do have power and you do have control in your relationships, and you don't have to put up with nonsense. I don't know if you can swear on this
No,
program,
oh,
Yeah,
but yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah, so you don't have to put up with shit,
Yeah.
okay? And yeah, so that is what fired me up. I was like, yeah, I need to do something. I don't know. At that time, I wasn't quite sure what just yet. But yeah, that is what led me here, really. Yeah.
I feel like it's crazy that you said like it is a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's mad that so many women experience the same things, and I feel like it's just been getting worse. And it's like, what is the issue here? Like, is it men? Are men mad? Are we like what? Like, I just don't get it. Like, I've been having a really difficult time with men, or like just trying to understand. Who wants to understand men anyway? But trying to understand them, and then I feel like, you know, we do a lot of self work and like self evaluations. Like, look at ourselves, we're like, okay, well maybe we handled this situation probably, but it's like no, but everyone's still going through this.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do?
Well, just to use my experience as an example, and that puts things into context, right? I grew up in Holland, and I was raised by immigrant parents. They're both from Ghana. So, and if you know anything about the immigrant story,
Girl.
right? Like my parents were overworked, you know, I had little, resources. But I had a very tumultuous relationship with my mom. So without, obviously I don't want to trigger anyone too much, but overall, like what I observed my mom doing essentially was projecting her self-hatred onto me. So, so she basically pushed me to bleach my skin from a very young age. She always had a very, very derogatory comments about the way I looked, about my weight. The list goes on. So that was obviously what I had experienced growing up, and for 15 years of my life or so. So when you think about attachment, right, my first experience of a relationship, that is obviously, you look at your caregivers, right? So in my experience, my caregiver is very abusive, very violent, not very patient. She doesn't really hold me in high regard. And then if I look at my dad at the time, although I kind of put him on a pedestal at the time, but he didn't protect me from her, right? So these two kind of ideals of what I thought, a relationship should look like is then embedded in my psyche. So then as an adult, you go out, you date, you meet people. And what I found was I was gravitating towards men who were actually embodying my mother. And I didn't realize that, right? So I would find myself in a cycle of meeting men who are abusive, men who are very dominant, very, very alpha, like, that hyper masculine kind of man. And what I was essentially asking or seeking from them was the complete opposite, which was kindness, being patient, having compassion, being emotionally available and all these things. But they were not able to give me that. But I was yearning for it so much that I was willing to just completely ignore all of the, red flags and all of the really harmful behavior. So I kept myself in this revolving door. It's just a repeated cycle. So like I said earlier, when I got into therapy, and partly it was also because I had to, because I was training to become, a therapist as well, but partly also because I knew that I had to, do the internal work. That is when I started to basically peel back the layers of trying to understand my story and trying to understand how my past is informing my present. So yeah.
See, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I feel like in the past 2 years, like I was able to do a lot of work. Like I feel like this is not a word, but I've made it up, self-therapize a lot, in the sense where I'm like, okay, I know why my attachment style is like this. I know why I'm able to get rid of people because my dad wasn't in my life, whatever. I don't really have an attachment. Like, I can do all those things, but then it's like, and then it just stops. How do I work through it, and then like navigate life, trying to avoid? But then I just feel like, I don't know, maybe subconsciously I do end up going for like those same types of people.
Yeah. Actually, just to latch on to your question, and it's gonna sound silly, but work with me. Like, how do I explain? Is it that individuals, like whoever we are, we're attracted to specific types of people because of like whatever traumas or previous relationships we have with like our parents and stuff? Like, are we attracted to these people, and or are they attracted to us? Like, is it a two-way exchange that maybe we're giving off something that, because I know that like I this is another thing to deal with in therapy, but I went through a phase of like liking people back, right? But it was always the same type of person. So it wasn't as if I was like actively seeking that type of person, but they were attracted to me.
Absolutely.
So is it like we're wearing something on ourselves or presenting something that's attractive? I don't know. Sorry, it's getting really deep, really psychological.
Yeah. No, but that is exactly it. It is a two-way street. So just as much as I was seeking out a certain type of guy, they were also seeking out a certain type of woman as well. And, you know, in those cases, women who are vulnerable, women who don't have, you know, much of self-confidence per se, you know, women who, I don't know, don't really have much of a social system around them, you know. So yeah, it definitely goes both ways. And it's really weird because I asked my therapist at the time as well, like, well, what is it that I need to do? Like, what is it that I need to do here?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can't keep going through this constantly. And it's more so just knowing and being aware that in and of itself can be enough for you to basically be able to catch yourself when it happens, right? Because normally we kind of like go through the motions and then something terrible happens and then you think, oh my gosh, like I found myself here again. But actually, usually...
Are you blind?
Yeah.
Like, girl.
Right. Yeah, but normally like the behavior starts to show itself right at the start. So if you have the awareness and if you know what to look out for and you are in tune with yourself, you know when something isn't really aligned with you or something that, you know, something is off, and then go a different direction. So yeah.
I feel like it's hard as well because then you don't know, like, at what point should I maybe give this person grace, and it's like, this is just a slip up, to no, this is okay.
I was waiting for the expert to step in.
No, this is what they're like. Okay, I feel like, because like you can go through situations and then you get guarded and then you're like, well, everyone's like that. Don't trust. Everyone's like that.
How do you
and
balance
like, how
it?
do you balance the give this person a chance?
Sure.
And see, because I feel like I'm very much at that state where like, don't trust what you say. You're lying. You're a liar. You're lying to me. And it's like I feel like I'm at a point where like, I'm never going to be able to give that person an opportunity because I just don't trust you. Like at what point should you like give the person grace?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously I'm not your therapist. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually not that deep.
But I would say in that case, what I would say is it doesn't sound as if that you're ready to date at this moment in time. And I know I'm so sorry, but yeah, no, that is what I would suggest, because you do need to give people the opportunity to show that they are okay and that they can meet your needs. So it does require a level of vulnerability and trust to connect with someone. Otherwise, how is it going to work? You have to meet them in the middle somewhere. So if you feel like internally, if you feel like, okay, well, actually, I don't feel like I've processed my experiences as well as I thought I have, or, you know, and maybe I just need some time to myself, or maybe I just kind of like need to rediscover what I really want in a partner, because that's sometimes also the case, you know. Then I would suggest take a pause and just, you know, take some time to yourself. But yeah, that's what I would say.
This pause has been really long.
Straight into it. But what does, in terms of advice, obviously, like advice you would give to your clients would be unique to their situation, a lot more structured. But in that period of like taking time for yourself, self-work, what kind of things would you advise someone to do in that period to get back to their best self so they're ready to start dating again?
That's a really good question. I would say, I mean, I think there are like two facets here. So I would say one branch is like this, the self-love stuff, which I think, I mean, social media has really bastardized it a lot. But what I mean by self-love is to start to develop a relationship with your body, with your mind and body. So, you know, through meditation, through mindfulness practices, through journaling, you know, because again, so, like a lot of us have a really like negative inner critic as well.
Girl, I hate my girl.
So we need to be able to, we essentially need to learn how, what the question that I would ask my clients normally is, treat yourself how you expect someone else to treat you in a relationship. So what would that look like? So, you know, that would look like having compassion for yourself, you know. So when you do have negative thoughts, challenge them, you know, don't just let it linger. And yeah, and like the other stuff that I mentioned before. But also on the other hand, I would say push yourself out of your comfort zone and broaden your horizon, broaden your, you know, your environment, because the more you get to explore what is out there, the more you actually think, oh, okay, well, actually, what I was perhaps used to, or what it is that I'm usually maybe attracted to, is maybe not necessarily what I want anymore. You know, there's a whole world out there. Go out and explore, you know. So yeah, I think those are kind of like two main things I would say. So self-care and yeah, getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
I feel like it's hard because I'm generalizing. I don't think a lot of people allow themselves like that space to like love themselves, or like pour love like back into themselves. And like even if they're having like a bad time, to just like give themselves that respect and look after themselves. Like what you said about being like really negatively critiquing yourself, like I feel like I'm also that type of person. I feel like we do as well. We'll be like, oh, like I'm this, I'm that, da, 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 da. And you don't really realize, I guess, the weight that it carries when you're consistently. So then how are you supposed to like go out with your best self if you're just like a cloud of negativity?
Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, you kind of like have to imagine, right? Like if you would imagine someone else speaking to you in that way, like would you be okay with that, you know, or would you be okay with someone speaking in that manner to, I don't know, maybe like a cousin, or you know, a nephew or whatever? Like would that be okay, you know? So yeah, you have to put things into perspective, and we often overlook those things.
I think it's hard though, because in the context of like relationships, if you've gone through so many situations that obviously ended up badly, and for whatever the case may be, you're looking at yourself and blaming yourself only because it's like you don't have another reference point, right? If I've been in 4 relationships and they've not worked out, the common denominator is me. So like obviously there's so much more behind that, in terms of maybe you're going for the wrong type of guy and you're have expectations in men that they can't deliver. Fine, like appreciate all of that. But like on a 1 + 1 = 2 level, it's so easy for you to then be like, well, I'm shit, I'm the problem, no one likes me. Like, no one likes me, Harry. Hang it up. Like, let's all go home. Like, it's so easy. I think the difficult part is challenging that and working through and seeing things objectively that, no, I am fine. I am beautiful. I am great. I have so much to offer the world. Let me wear my best dress and go out. But it's not as easy, really. Like saying it is one thing, but believing it is like a journey in itself.
Yeah. And what has really helped, because like for me, considering that I've had quite a traumatic, upbringing, and I've had quite traumatic experiences, I also had a very terrible, inner critic and self-view of myself. So it took a long time for me to work through that. But what really helped me was to seek out evidence to support what it is that I'm challenging, essentially. So, for instance, if I had the idea that no one liked me because of whatever reason, I would, for instance, maybe go out, or, well, in my case, I travel. I like to solo travel. So, I went to Orlando a couple years back, and I went alone, and I met a group of girls there, and we just instantly clicked, and we've been like this ever since. So and they constantly affirm me, and they constantly send me so much love, and so that for me was essential, because Dan instilled the idea that, okay, well, actually I am likable, actually people do love me, and people do accept me, and just because I've experienced people who don't necessarily like me or don't want to be around me, or whatever, for whatever case may be, they may just not be my people, or they may have just been people that were there for a season, and that is okay, so seeking out evidence to support the woman that you want to be or want to become, that helps.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
What do you... I'm really battling with this thing at the moment, which is I don't think I'm my type's type. And how do you like, because it sucks. It's like, why don't the people that I'm attracted to, or like physically, why are they not attracted to me? And it's like, am I just ugly, kind of thing? And that's a very, like, I feel like a lot of people might be experiencing that as well. Like, that's a very difficult thing to maybe come to terms with, that, like, maybe you're really reaching for the stars and you can't reach it. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but I think what I would maybe ask you is, what makes you think that? Has anyone ever told you that, no, actually, no, you're not my type?
No.
Okay. But
I don't attract them either. I don't get to the point where they can be like, you're not my type, because I don't even get there.
Okay.
So it's like if you're out or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're at the clubs, and it's like, I know what like my type is, and it was like, but they will never, like, they just don't gravitate maybe towards me.
But have you ever went up to them? That's taking way too long.
Yeah, no.
That's taking way too long.
That's just like a fear of rejection, right?
Right. So it's
like...
it's okay, right? So essentially, you've maybe constructed in your mind that you're not their type. Like, you've already kind of like made up your mind that I'm not their type. So essentially, what you may be doing unconsciously is to put those fears into reality. I mean, there's a saying for that, right? But I can't. It's skipping my mind now. But
like self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that can be a completely unconscious.
Yeah. Process. Because I didn't even realize that actually I don't really actually go up to the people that I fancy ever. I'm just a little shy girl in the corner, like, I hope he likes me.
You're not shy. Come on.
Oh yeah,
I think in the context of dating, she gets really shy.
I'm just like, can't be myself. I'm a very shy person. Like, I'm like an introvert extrovert, but especially when it comes to men, I feel like I am really shy. Like I don't have that confidence
But I think
around them.
obviously I'm not a therapist, I'm not the expert, but I actually think in knowing you, I don't think that you're innately shy with men. I think it's your experiences have led you to become this person that's a lot more reserved and trying to protect yourself from getting hurt, kind of thing.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
So then it okay. So where you at? No, because because I can say I can say two things here. I can either say, are you okay with where you're at now, in terms of your dating life? Like, are you satisfied?
Well, yeah. Right now I am.
Right now you are, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then leave it at that. But if you want to create changes,
Yeah.
then I would suggest to do things different, and you have to really stretch yourself then by, again, collecting evidence. So going up to them, and not even with the intention of, oh, I'm gonna, get his number or whatever, but even if it's just to go up and have a chat and see how that goes.
Yeah.
See how that energy flows. And just do that over and over again. So then your brain, you're essentially training your brain that, oh, actually, they are interested in me because we're having a chat, we're having a bit of a flirt and whatever, and yeah, so you keep pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Gives you that
That's so
reassurance.
interesting because sometimes, like on dating diaries, we'll like give each other like weekly tasks. We'll be like, this week you're gonna go and like you're gonna talk to a man.
we never
and
do it.
I mean, we never do it, but like I guess it's the same thing. It's just like giving yourself those like small challenges to listen, girlies. If you think you're not your type's type, maybe you're doing a mean. You're not actually even talking to them. So how are they gonna be your type?
Yeah.
Or
Maybe you
their
even look
type.
standoffish. You never know.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, it's all about energy a lot of times when you do meet new people. Like, when you meet someone, regardless of gender, but when you meet someone and you can just tell that something is off.
Yeah.
It's like,
Not my type. Yeah.
yeah, or you just not really vibing. You can't really pinpoint what it is, but it's just
like,
there.
you're weird.
And yeah, it's just an energy.
Yeah.
So so if you feel maybe shy or slightly insecure, or you're not really confident, don't really feel good in your skin, it shows. Even if you try, even if you don't want to,
You're giving
but
them
it
bad
shows.
vibes.
Yeah.
Unintentionally. Oh dear.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, and because I actually got a example for me in terms of like my experience. Like, there was a period of time where I felt like, because I am curvy, and I've got the small waist, the bum, and the hips, and so so guys tend to gravitate towards me, but they come off with a very, I don't know, kind of like very hungry kind of energy, right? And it's almost immediately quite sexual from the get-go, because they tend to sexualize my body. But what I found was that, because with my experience of having men basically approach me in that manner, unconsciously I've trained myself to appease that. So I was getting like that very sexual, very aggressive like energy, but I was giving that as well unconsciously. And like, and by the end of those like encounters, I would think that, but why do they always treat me like I'm some walking sex toy? Like, what is this?
Yeah, but that's the energy.
But it's the energy, like, again, unconsciously, I've just trained myself like, oh, well, they see me as this walking, talking sex toy. So in order to, again, not want to feel rejected, I want to appease them. I do want to be desired. I do want to be in a relationship. I do want to be all of these different things, right? So you then kind of give into that energy, and you give that energy off as well.
And then I guess in that situation, was it the case that like, if a guy approached you but he wasn't giving that like hungry energy, then you'd think he doesn't like you,
or just like, what's this?
turn you off. Oh wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I guess now you've worked through that.
Yeah. And I've worked through that now. Yeah. No, and it's beautiful. I met someone through Hinge, I think. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And but how we initially met, which is funny, like again, not like not my type on paper, if you like. So I didn't really go into into that interaction of like, ooh, let me try and date this guy or whatever. Like I was just more of like on a friendly vibe because we liked kind of like similar things or whatever. So as time progressed, I noticed how I felt in his presence in terms of like that sense of safety, the sense of comfort, feeling heard. He's genuinely curious and interested about what I do, and my story, and genuinely want to get to know me, and all of that other stuff that was normally at the forefront, that was secondary. That wasn't even a thing for him. So when I had that experience, like, oh gosh, actually, it can be different, you know, and I can feel safe in a relationship. Like I can have a healthy dynamic with a man, and it doesn't have to be chaos and trauma and all of that stuff. It can actually be okay. And I sense myself always trying to find loopholes, of course.
I was about to ask that, like, how do you're going from extremes, right? What that is not actually like normal, and you're going something that looks a bit more normal, but it's so different and foreign. Did you find yourself second guessing, and like, what advice would you give to someone who's in that situation to not self-sabotage?
Yeah, so you will try to sabotage it, but like in my case, and again, it's just a beautiful story because he was very patient with me, and like he understood. So every time when I tried to pull back and run away, he was like, well, I'm just gonna be here, whenever you're ready. You can come back, and so there was that push and pull at first, but because he kind of persisted and he knew why it was happening, because we had those conversations and he knew my story, so he understood. So when it is difficult, when you're trying to sabotage yourself, well, try to catch yourself, but also try to have conversations with people who love you and know you, and try to get that feedback. Because then they will be able to give you kind of like an outsider's perspective in terms of like what's going on. Because if you kind of like keep it in your head and you just stew on it, and then like it just the situation just seems to get worse and worse, and it's a catastrophe, and like you need to get out, and you need to end it right now, and all of these things. But like if you've got someone say, well, okay, actually pause, and it's actually maybe not as bad as you think it is, or it's something that you can both work on, or whatever, and just try to kind of like brainstorm with you. That helps, definitely. Yeah.
Beautiful. I am just like so mind blown. I was just sat here like,
tell me more. Tell me more.
I think as well, it's just hard because like you sit here and I feel like everyone knows what they have to do. And then just doing it is hard, and then when the other person isn't following your script, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It is hard. It's like you're off script. Like this isn't like, come on, like I've done the work, I'm doing what I need to do, and now you're throwing me, and it's like, whoa, like it wasn't meant to be like this.
But then again, you also have to bear in mind that you may have done the work, you may have, but they may not have, and they might not be where you're at right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, either in those cases, I would maybe say, are they at least open enough to learn and to put in the work and to remain curious and all of these things? But if they're not, and they're just not trying to meet you halfway, then it's not your job to try to be the therapist in that relationship, or try to fix them. You have to choose yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah. I want to quickly go back to energies and giving off. And like, obviously that now I know can count towards the type of person you attract. I feel like a lot of women have in their mind the type of person they want. So, you know, someone that's like got a good job, someone that's respectable, and someone that like wants to look after you and this and that. But what is my question?
How do you attract?
How do you attract like that kind of like caliber of man that like has the values that like you want? I know it's not like as easy as go and do this, because I think that's a lot of like young women, especially like my age, especially where we're at, is hard to come across and come by. And it's like, okay, at what point is it like, yeah.
But what makes you think that it's hard to come by or come across?
I think just because it hasn't happened
in your world, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by earlier. Try to expand your world, because again, in like the the guy that I'm with now, if I wasn't on Hinge, for instance, we would have never crossed paths at all. Like, we just lived two completely different lives in that sense. So, but before I met him, I felt like, oh yeah, all the guys, they're all the same, and it's all just
boring.
Yeah,
yeah. But if you expand the world that you're in, you get to see it like, oh, okay, so there is something else, out there, But it's up to you to want to like, expand really, yeah.
No, my question is kind of like similarly related. Obviously, in your situation now, not to say you're completely like opposites, but you're different, and it's different to what you knew. Do you think that like really good partnerships are where the two people are not so alike? And like the whole like opposites attract, like where do you stand on like opposites attract? And because I'm always been that person that's like, oh my god, I want a guy that's like the male version of me, I want him to do, but that doesn't work. And I'm kind of like opening myself up now to like dating guys that maybe are different to me, but they're actually presenting the qualities that I'm looking for in a man. It's just that, I don't know, we might not particularly like the same thing, but like how important is that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there are two ways here that you can go about it. I mean, the first thing is there does need to be an element of balance, right? So like you said, so I don't even necessarily want to say the complete opposites attract or whatever, but for instance, I'm quite a alpha woman, if you like. So if I'm attracting an alpha man, or in my previous experiences, I was attracting alpha, like dominant men, and they wanted me to be more submissive and feminine.
Oh my god, that was literally my next question.
Like please, but yeah. So like that is not me. So there will be that kind of like fight almost of them trying to dominate me, and me just not giving in, and that is not helpful. Now, in terms of like now, for instance, he is still masculine, and he still steps into his role as a man, if you like, but he also has a very delicate, sensitive side to him, that more of that feminine side then that I need, really, and that is what keeps the balance. Yeah. So and I kind of like forgot the question. Could you repeat the question again?
Like, just where do you stand on like the whole like opposites attract? And
that would be my answer, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know that you do work about like femininity and well, I don't know what the work is, but I don't know whether it's encouraging it or not. But there's always like these things on like TikTok, and I know TikTok is literally like you can get some great advice, and then there's just like some girl sat in her bedroom like, you should do this, you should do that.
Yeah.
There's loads of things about like, like sitting in your feminine energy and like being a bit more feminine, and that way you'll get a bit more of a masculine man and someone that like wants to take care of you, like
damsel in distress,
like take the lead. I feel like we both naturally are not very feminine. I'm sorry, I'm
No. Yeah, I
talking
mean,
on behalf of
no,
you.
fine.
Yeah, feminine women in that sense. Like we're very
Yeah.
like headstrong,
Yeah.
like know what we want, like
Mm.
put our foot down, like not really
Yeah.
gonna be like, babe, can you get this? I'll do it myself. Like
Yeah.
I don't really need anyone, to be honest.
Mm.
How do you balance being that but still being able to like sit in your feminine energy and allow the man to be the man?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I don't necessarily do femininity work per se because I honestly think it's bullshit. Like, I don't necessarily believe in that. I mean, I feel like gender, like, that is a social construct. So, but that's a different conversation altogether. So, but what I would say is, again, in terms of balance, right? You need to create a space for your man, whoever you're dating, to step into their role essentially. Because like you said, well, yeah, I don't really need a man. Well, okay, yeah, well, he's gonna feel useless then, really, right? And then again, it could be an unconscious thing. You may not necessarily say that to him in his face, but he can sense it in the way that you move and the things that you say, and he can pick up on that. And he's like, well, why the hell what am I here then? So, allowing them to look after you, to be of service to you, allowing them to show up for you as you would show up for them as well, because, it goes both ways. Yeah.
I feel like because some people may find that very difficult, and like some women, when I say people, to like break that down and just allow themselves to like accept that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's also a big thing.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like sometimes black women go through like accepting that love and like not having, like letting down that guard and that sort of.
You don't have to be strong. And
Yeah,
tough
you
and
don't have to be this strong black woman. Like you can be fragile and be strong, but like be fragile and independent. But just letting someone, I feel like that's just something that a lot of women really need to work on.
Yeah, and that's why I specifically work with high achieving, modern women, because we do tend to wear all the hats and do all of the things and be everything to everyone, right? Well, what I would encourage women to do is be able to let go and just be okay with being good enough as how you come, essentially. And and again, that kind of like go-getting kind of energy that does transfer in a relationship, and that can be overwhelming for men, and especially considering that we are going through an evolution, right? Like women, we can pretty much do whatever in this day and age, or in most parts of the world anyway, not everywhere. So men are still trying to catch up to the fact that we don't technically need them. We don't need them to sign off on things. We don't need them to buy stuff. We can do it all ourselves. So we need to try to find the right balance between, yes, you are, a go-getter and you've got your own stuff and, you can look after yourself and everything else, but to also create a space where a man can facilitate, being of service and then being the protector or being the provider, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
So you work with like high achieving women who naturally, like you said, would be like go-getters, and they're able to like, I guess, like set boundaries in the workplace and set expectations and all those things that if you translate it into a relationship might seem overwhelming to a man, right? So how do you balance like making clear what your expectations are, boundaries, maybe even demanding certain things, like if you like kind of showing them how to treat you and how to love you, like I would like you to show up here and there, without it seeming overwhelming or dominant, if that makes sense. And maybe if I do an example of like, I don't know, you want your guy to like come and pick you up from somewhere or something, I don't know, like is it too much to say, or is it like, no, let me be the woman and hope that he is psychic and will just be the man? Like I don't know. I don't know, because I always found that like being like really like great at work and assertive, I could never do that in a which in itself there's like work to be done, but I could never really like assert myself. And maybe it was that fear of if I'm too much, it would be too much and he would leave. But he left anyway. He wasn't the right one.
No, but and that is it.
Yeah. That's
If they leave, they're just not the right person anyway. So, but yeah, just to like go back. Sorry, repeat the question again.
How do you balance like being assertive
being
assertive
right,
without it being too much?
Right.
Intimidating.
Like not wanting to scare them off.
It's about tonality, and it's about the language you use, right? So if you, for instance, there was this topic that came up in with one of my clients. Like she's dating someone and he spends a ridiculous amount on like trainers and things or whatever, and it annoys her. And they tend to like argue about it because, well, that is my money. I can spend on that kind of money if I want to. But like in her mindset, she's like, well, if we want to build a future together, like you need to be sensible with your money. So like, what are we doing? So like,
period. What
are we doing? Yeah. But so so she said, well, yeah, we tend to argue about that. And I was like, well, okay, well, how about ask him, why do you feel like you need to spend this amount? Or why do you feel like you need to spend this amount at this frequency, for instance? Like, what is it? What is the meaning behind that? And that is not even, it's not even in a kind of like a backhanded way, but it's just kind of like, ask, again, like, why? Like, just understand why. Just be curious. And and if he then responds of like, okay, well, I don't know, it makes me feel, I don't know, I mean, it could be anything, right? You can then use that point as a prompt for like, okay, well, how come do you feel like you need to do that through buying trainers? Like, what if we would think about, whatever goal it is that you guys share, and how would that feel? How would that make you feel, right? And try to connect the dots, because sometimes people cannot necessarily connect the dots themselves. So sometimes you kind of like have to help connect the dots for them. And again, just being curious, just having that conversation. Really, that's what I'm thinking about. I see your face.
I'm laughing because I'm like, nah, a relationship coach is required, because if I went to my girls or someone came to me with that dilemma, I'd be like, he's weird.
Like, why is he buying trainers all the time? Like, get away.
And that is not healthy.
Be like, let's sit down and think about the
reason why
he feels the need to do that. But that's what I mean. No one has patience.
Yeah.
And it's just communication.
Yeah.
And I think as well, people don't know how to communicate.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever did. Some people do. But it is like really...
It's work, yeah.
It is work. And understanding like the way men think and the way women think is so different.
Yes.
Like they're very matter of fact. We're very emotional. Like it's just the way it is, and they're very solution based, and we're just like...
I actually would like to argue that.
Oh,
sorry. I think men are highly emotional.
Do you know what? I agree.
Yeah,
yes, they
yeah.
are. Yes, they fucking are. Yes, they fucking are. And they don't know how to handle it.
They don't know how to handle it.
They have
And then
no
they'll
idea
shut
what
down.
to do with it.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to process it, and then it manifests itself in very wild ways.
Yeah.
So they're highly emotional.
I agree. I also disagree with myself.
They are. Oh my god, no, I love that. Before we start to wrap up, I just want to dig deeper into your work as a relationship coach. You kind of touched on it. If somebody's listening and they want to, inquire, or they just want to know, like, what do the sessions and like the services you offer look like?
Yeah, so I've got a 6-month coaching program, which is a group coaching program for women. So if you are interested in getting to know more about the program, then you can always reach out to me via DMs or an email. And what the group consists of is essentially every month we go through a theme, and it all addresses trauma or overcoming trauma, thinking about your attachment, why is that attachment style why did you adopt that attachment style, and what does it look like for you, and how can you move into a more secure attachment, right? So there's insecure and secure. So how can we move you into more secure attachment style? And yeah, so that is basically what the program entails. But if you want a quick win, I've got a freebie for everyone that they can download. So that is basically a value-based partner compatibility assessment that they can download. And so if you go onto thepowerofpause.info/workbook, and yeah, all you have to do is just put in your name and your email so I can send it over to you. And yeah, so that will go through some of the stuff that we've spoken about already, about what you find important in relationships. What does that look like? How can you make that assessment when you are seeing someone, or if you are in a relationship and you think, there's something going on here, I'm not quite sure what, then, that could be a good tool to use. So yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely put that link in
we'll put the link
description wherever everyone is listening. Do you offer one-on-ones? Because obviously group, do people have to talk about their business in the group?
Do you know what?
But I feel like group settings are really helpful.
Incredibly helpful.
To hear other people and also know you're not alone.
Yeah, true.
That's it. It's incredibly helpful. A lot of transformation happens when women come together and share and, and be vulnerable. And basically feel like there's a sisterhood, So yeah. But I do also offer one-to-one at a higher price point. But nevertheless. but yeah, that is also something I offer.
We just had a couple questions.
Oh gosh,
the girlies will want them answered. So the first one was: Is it possible your partner can hinder your drive because they're lacking it?
Yeah.
Yikes! Been there, done that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, so because and more often that obviously stems from their own insecurities, right? That they're projecting onto you.
Sorry, I said this last week. If there's an insecure man,
run
away because.
Right.
Am I right?
No, absolutely.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
No, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, because I feel like we all have some level of insecurities, right? So, and again, it ties back to what I said earlier. Are they willing to be open and make changes? Are they willing to have those difficult conversations with you? Because it's okay to feel insecure and to feel like, they're lacking in some way, or they're falling behind or whatever, not meeting your expectations or whatever the case may be. But when it becomes problematic is if they just project that onto you and just cause you harm. When on the other hand, if they say, okay, well, actually, I am feeling quite insecure about X, Y, and Z. I'm not quite sure what to do about it, but can we work through it together? Like, that is a completely different outlook on it. So if they do have that outlook, then you can work with that. But yeah, if they don't want to acknowledge what's going on and just causing you harm, then no. Go.
I do feel like that's still a difficult conversation to have, because it's like, okay, now we're having this conversation, you're like, look, I'm feeling a bit jealous or undervalued, or like I'm not really hitting goals like you are, like I feel a type of way. It's like, okay, so like how do you move forward from that? It's like, what do I stop? Like, I'm still going to continue what I'm doing. How are you all of a sudden your feelings going to change?
No, they're not going to essentially change, and you don't necessarily have to change anything about, because it's not about you per se. It's not something that you've done wrong. It's obviously about them and how they process their emotions and things. But if you can be, open enough to have those conversations with them, and they are willing to do the work themselves, right? And then ask also what they need from you so you can support them through it. That is a good collaboration, I would say. Yeah.
Question, sorry, just like making it like very basic. Yeah. Do you not think that maybe like they're just not compatible? Like, at what point do you actually say, like, I'm really driven, I'm really motivated, self-motivated, I'm really determined, and you're not? Like, maybe we're just not.
It depends on what you find important.
Fair. Yeah, maybe the person doesn't put much importance in their partner being like that, right?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're with someone who treats you incredibly well and
Fine.
is, and does everything what you need from them essentially, but they're just not that driven, you kind of
Fine.
like have to ask yourself, do you put more importance on him being driven than on the other stuff? So you
Got
kind
it.
of
Still
like,
feeding
Yeah,
you in
got
one
it.
way.
right, yeah. And that's why the partner compatibility assessment is really important.
Just a quick question on that. So what happens? So you fill it out, and then do you get like a something
So
back?
there are 4 parts, and essentially it's kind of like a guide that helps you think about what your values are in life. So what do you really find important beyond the what I call the shiny stuff,
Yeah.
so what do you find really important, and assess how much of that is reflected in your current relationship, in your dating situation,
Right.
etc. And then you can come to a conclusion, well, either this is something that we can work on, because I mean some of it is reflected, but it could be better and you could work through it, or it's just not present at all. Then you probably know, like, okay, yeah, this is a problem.
Damn.
Yeah.
Girls are going to get triggered. Okay, another question we had was how do you stop attracting men that are lazy / low effort? And I'm interpreting low effort as in the relationship.
Yeah,
I
like
guess.
don't want to do anything, or even like in dating, like don't want
Yeah.
to go out, don't want to like do like can't even do the bare minimum.
Well, but then it's not really a relationship then, surely, right? I think.
But actually, I guess you could be in a relationship where they're just not showing up.
Or they're not showing
Yeah.
up in the
Yeah,
relationship.
like it is low. Oh wait.
Or even if it's like situation, I don't know.
How do you stop attracting men that are lazy, low effort?
Lazy and low effort.
It feels like in the context of dating.
In the
Yeah.
context of dating. Yeah, then look, if my mantra is, if it feels like hard work, it's not meant to be.
That's what my mum says.
It shouldn't be hard.
It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard. And if all you're asking for is to feel seen, feel healed, feel loved, and that doesn't require that much effort. So if they're not showing up, then they're just not that into you, maybe, or they're just not interested in relationships as as a whole either. So yeah.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I just have a question. Like, no, because I'm about to get pissed off up in here. Why do men do this thing where it's like they will move to you and then not put in effort? What is that about? Like, leave me alone if you know that you're not willing to. Sorry, this is like my old life re-traumatized, by the way. But like, I just think it's rude, and I feel like a lot of women go through that where like a guy will approach them, act like they're really into it for like a week. And then it's like, you're chasing them, but you came to me. So how did we get here where I'm chasing you?
Sometimes, and I don't think this is exclusive to men, I think women can do this as well, where they just want to seek, again, that evidence of like, oh, can I get this fine young lady? And then they just go through that process. And then once, you've shown your interest, and, you are at a point where you are giving the attention and everything else, like, oh, okay, yeah, I've still got it, bye. and so sometimes people can do that, but again, if you think about it psychologically, right, maybe they do have some sense of insecurity in some way, in some way, shape or form, and just having that experience of feeling chosen, that can give them that could feed their ego, could give them like a morale boost, or whatever it is. Yeah,
half the time they're not even deserving of time. That's what's actually more. Yeah, and then it all comes back to you.
Yeah, and then it's like, now I'm upset.
Yeah,
and I didn't even like you anyway.
Yeah, I gotta set boundaries. Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah, exactly. Setting boundaries and communicating them well from the get go.
How do you do that? Like how you like, or setting boundaries and also setting your standards. Like, this is where I'm at. If you can't, like, I'm not gonna, like, I find it so difficult to be like, no, I don't want that kind of treatment. I want good treatment. But then,
and should you have to say it as
like,
well?
Should I have to say it?
Yeah, of course.
How do you say without hurting someone's?
Forget their feelings, bro. Forget their feelings, bro.
No, like I feel like if you're not being rude and brash, you're just having you're just saying what you need. Like that. I mean, I'm from Holland, where I am. We just say things as it is. Like if we need, we're very direct. So I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
Just say what's on your mind.
You're fucking sensitive, man.
Just say what's on your mind, but just be, I would say, just be mindful of the language that you use.
Yeah.
Just don't go and be.
You're a broke ass bitch anyway.
Yeah. Don't be confrontational. That's not gonna get you anywhere. Yeah. But yeah, if you're just open and say, well, I need this and this because it makes me this and this. That's enough.
We got this. I hope everyone has taken away what they needed to take away today. This has been sensational, stunning vibes. Where can we find you on socials?
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials, but I'm only active on Instagram and YouTube. So it's at Dr. Florencia _. So yeah.
Stunning. I feel like this isn't the last we're gonna have you on here.
Oh no! I feel like we have to come back like a year from now
and be like, you changed.
Check it. Honestly, and if you are part of our Patreon family, we are about to record Dating Diaries. It's gonna be juicy because we've got an expert in the building,
and we're getting into
the what's going on right
what's
now,
actually happening in our lives. So you can join Patreon. Remember that the link is in the description, and it's £3 a month. It's cheaper than your Pret coffee.
Yep.
We'll see you girlies next week. Thank you so much for coming as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.